art bus so much is because it's fun and we get to do a lot of art, and I love art. When I grow up, I want to be an artist and a police.
I think it's fun. I like making faces like we made today. I like the water balloons they used to have. And I like the paint and the balloon. You used to make something out of the balloons. They used to have a balloon book and they make the swords and the dogs and stuff.
This is about to be painted the ugliest, prettiest, most devilish eyes. It's red and black. Some people like them, that color, but she's but I really to paint. What color would you prefer me to have? Red or black? Well, I would like red because red is a beautiful color. And the art bus is a rainbow color, and it's called the art bus because maybe it has so many art colors, artistic colors. So
it's good because usually kids just go around like hanging on the streets, but then when the art bus come, they like want to the art bus hanging in there.
I feel like when I be a teacher, I'ma already know that I'ma know how to I'ma know how to draw and stuff. Like when I be teaching the kids, like if we have an art class, I'ma already know. If I tell them to draw, I'ma already know what to draw, and I'ma try to have respect and teach them how to draw.
we love the art bus. See, I'm done. I'm gonna cut it out.
Tell a whole lot.
Why don't we try using some chalk?
Chalk could cut
Yeah, it looks really good on black paper.
The Imagine Bus Project is a neighborhood arts project that goes to kids in inner city neighborhoods in San Francisco and soon the North Bay area. I found that taking projects to the kids really encourages them to come out and take advantage of whatever is offered to them. These are not highly motivated kids for the most part. If you have a facility 2 or 3 blocks away, they might never go to it. But if you bring the art bus into their neighborhood, park on their street and open the doors, they will definitely come. About 3 years ago, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I knew I wanted to work with kids, and I loved working with arts and crafts. And so I came up with this idea of taking arts and crafts programs to kids where they live. It took about 1.5 years to finally get a bus and get started, but we had our first day out in April of 2000. My head teacher, Marie Rogers, and I went to Potrero Hill, parked in a little parking lot, opened the doors, and about 40 kids showed up. It was bedlam. We didn't exactly know what we were doing, but we learned fast. In the early days when we were trying to figure out where to go, we just pretty much went to neighborhoods that we knew had an awful lot of kids that didn't have an awful lot to do. And if you live in the city, you pretty much know where those places are. Since that time, we have requests all the time from neighborhoods, programs that would like for us to help augment their services. So our big challenge now is to try to serve everybody that really needs us. And our program doesn't replace anything, although certainly schools could do a lot more in arts and crafts for kids, but it's not each individual school's fault. The state has just put such terrific restrictions on schools these days that they've cut a lot of programs that I wish they hadn't cut. So we're not replacing anything. We don't work with schools. We're not affiliated with schools. We don't go to schools. What we're doing is separate after-school extracurricular. When kids are in school, they have something to do and they're safe. They're very much at risk when they're out of school and they don't have anything to do. So my initial focus was to start an after-school program that would give kids something to do besides get into trouble or put themselves in harm's way. I wanted to have someplace safe for them that was also interesting and challenging. The best way to get to kids in their neighborhoods is to go to them I knew that I couldn't have a facility in every single neighborhood in the city, so I had to take the whole facility to them. So that's why the idea of the bus came up, because it works out that you can put a terrific art studio in a 25-foot bus or a 20-foot bus. I chose arts and crafts because I know how important it is to have an outlet for your artistic impulses and energy, your creative side. It's extremely important to every child's maturing process. I think that you mature better in a more solid way when you've had a chance to be expressive of yourself. If you've had to stick stuff in and leave it there, that's not a healthy thing to do. So the more that you can express yourself, the better. And I think with inner city kids, a lot of times they don't have ways to express themselves that are safe. You know, they yell at each other, they hurt each other, they throw things, because a lot of times these kinds of things are modeled. Now, this isn't across the board at all. And it doesn't have anything to do with race. You know, it's really a function of poverty and isolation. And I think that we need to do everything we can to break the isolation. That's part of our mission statement, is to break the isolation that inner city kids face. A lot of their parents are isolated as well, and this is another goal of mine, is to try and figure out some way of offering parents exposure to things that they might be interested in but not have the wherewithal or the energy to pursue. And we can take programs to inner city adults as well. I just have to work on that once I know that the kids are taken care of.
The day the Rainbow Bus is coming is something that they look forward to all the time. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I have to be there at a certain time. I think it's a great thing for the neighborhoods. I don't live in the Valencia Gardens. I used to. My kids spend most of their time there because my mom's there. But I live up in Double Rock. And a lot of the kids out there, other neighborhoods need it. I mean, a lot of the kids, it's keeping kids out of trouble though, you know?
We serve 2 locations a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, with the exception of Wednesday mornings, which are in-service training time with staff. The mornings are spent with little kids in preschool or latchkey programs where we augment an already existing program. There are lots of programs that take care of kids, but sometimes they just don't have enough money to do very much with them, so they're limited as to their activities. So we take our bus to those already existing programs, and the kids do arts and crafts with us on the bus. A good example of that is the Tenderloin Project. They have a wonderful children's playground there and lots of facilities for them, but they have 120 kids a day. You know, it's really hard to find activities for all of them. So when the art bus comes, and they're little kids, they're just, you know, no older than 4 years old, we run a lot of kids through the bus on Thursday mornings at Tenderloin. Then the staff takes a break, and in the afternoon they show up at locations just like this one on Gilman Street, at 5 locations a week, 4 mornings, 5 afternoons. And these locations, most of them we've been going to for a real long time. Staff tries to keep the kids off the bus until they've got all the supplies out, the projects laid out. Then they open the doors and the kids come aboard and spend as much time with us really as they want to. Most of the time we're with the kids from 3:30 until 6. Most kids aren't real tentative when they see the art bus. They want to see what's going on. Kids are naturally curious and they come aboard. But for those that are a little shyer, or they feel it's not too cool, or, you know, for whatever reasons, sometimes they'll hang around for a couple of weeks or something. Sometimes they'll come and then disappear for a couple of weeks and come back. But we have our regulars that show up every single solitary week. They know that at 3:30 the bus is going to be there, and they're waiting.
Halloween is thing. Halloween is my dream. My dream is to scream. I love my dream because I love my dream. I love my dream because it leads me to Halloween.
I think this part.
Oh, you have
This part should be black right here.
Grab it.
It could be either way, but maybe you want to do that one.
Black.
I don't know. Do you want it to look uniform or do you want it to look... do them all different. I used to be a teacher at Precita Eyes, the Mural Arts Center in the Mission, and one day Susan Little, the director of our project, called Susan Cervantes, the director there, and asked would there be anybody interested in a project like this, and Susan recommended me and I met up with the other Susan. And we just kind of got together and brainstormed, and she told me her idea, and I thought it sounded great, and we kind of just made it up from there.
Say if you want this to be your eyeball, and you put it down on here wherever you want it to be, and then you take the plaster and you dip it in the water, and it becomes really... And then you just put it on here. And you keep doing it until you get it all the way around so it's stuck down on here. And then it'll dry in about 10 minutes. And it'll be like a cast, like if you break your arm.
It works all different ways. Sometimes I come up with a project for them to do specifically, in which I've got all the supplies that they need set out in trays and like that. And sometimes I just let them do what they want, and everybody will be doing something different. And I'm just running around like a waitress trying to get all the stuff to them. And sometimes we try to come up with things like, we had a puppet show once, and we worked on that for a while. We've had 2 shows in galleries, in which we spent a long time, like about a month on each show, coming up with good artwork, you know, within a theme, to actually have a show in a gallery where they could sell their work and, you know, be responsible for it like artists. all kinds of ways. We kind of make it up. Yeah, I really like coming up with stuff. It's challenging to come up with 2 different projects every day, 5 days a week, all year long. The most rewarding part is when a kid, I think, says that they can't do something, and I'm able to encourage them to at least try to do it, and then they find out that they can do it, and then they're walking around like, I can do it. That's probably the most rewarding. I think the Art Bus is important because there really aren't that many programs out there for the kids. They've cut out most of the art in most public schools for lack of funding. And I think that art is a really important part of development, just as important as math and English. A lot of these kids can't write and can't spell and add, and it comes out on their stories, and at least that's the way they can express themselves. If they can't write it down, they can draw it out or scribble and get it out, even if it doesn't turn out into anything. A lot of times they destroy their projects in the parking lot, and that's okay because at least they got it out for a few minutes. I see a lot of people just in need of attention, basically, and just a little direction on, you know, you could go there if you're looking for this, or just to let them know that they have avenues, not just what they're doing right now. That's not as far as it goes. Maybe to open up their minds to, you know, I can do it 5 different ways instead of just one way. You know, maybe the art will help in that way. I just want them to know that there are, you know, places they could go and things they could do instead of just staying in the same situation.
Your eyes in the this is a really good picture. So is that one. Everybody did such a good job.
I put your house up.
This is Chantel's picture.
The basic fact is just that these kids don't have art in their schools. They don't have an outlet for creativity on the most part. A lot of times when we come to their neighborhoods, they don't really know like the first thing about art, unfortunately. And it's almost like teaching them how to read. It's like the kids just never has had an exposure to art. And I feel that it's important because art builds so many different things within a person. Like especially as children, when they still have that raw creative energy, they really need to have some way to outlet it. And a lot of times they don't have access to materials, much less a teacher. So we're here to provide both of those for those kids. And not only does it teach them like hand-eye coordination and other like scientific abilities like that, but kids at this age have just an incredible, limitless amount of ideas and imagination that you, especially as you get older, and if you still keep doing art, you have a tendency to lose it. Like even if you are an artist, you lose that kind of like imagination, and your hand starts getting more defined. But here, like they can just do whatever they want. They can go crazy, and it's still beautiful. And you just kind of lose that after a while. It's just really innocent, and it's beautiful. And so I think that's like the biggest reasons why having a program like this is important.
Can you spell right?
I really like just being able to share my experience with art with other kids, to be able to see like the look of satisfaction on their face when they've done something, they created something, and they know that they did a good job doing it. That's like the most rewarding thing for me. I feel extremely fortunate to be able to be a part of this project. I just feel fortunate to be able to go into the different parts of San Francisco that I probably wouldn't have been able to on such an intimate basis with the children. And I feel fortunate to be able to have relationships with these kids and become friends with them and see them mature as artists and as people.
I like your flower. Don't forget your flower.
All right.
Before the art bus didn't come, it was all boring because in the park it was like a jungle gym with no swing. But then when the art bus did come, it started getting funner because we did prize tags, gift boxes that we could take home, and now it's just still fun.
I used to have fights all the time, then I just come down here and play on the art bus.
If the art bus wasn't here, I would have been very, very sad, and I think in my mind, I draw a picture between this art bus and I draw a picture between this art bus and draw a house. Before, when it wasn't the art bus, it was bored, but now since the art bus here, it's been fun. You should go to the art bus because it is very neat. You can learn how to go art when you grow up, and you learn how to write and how to write and paint and stuff and color, like for the little kids. But my grandma said she would like for me to go to the art thing because she thinks it's pretty nice and she thinks it's good that that these people care about the kids and try to help them out. Well, at first I didn't know when I looked outside, all I seen was, art bus, and then when I went in, I seen this lady, Marie, and every Thursday I always come to see her, and I always bring kids over there, and the thing I like about over there is that I can draw and do other art things. And she hangs them up, and then sometimes she takes them down and hang them up, and that was Friday because me and her, we made a little plan that she can come on Friday because more kids can come on Friday.
I think programs like the Art Bus are very, very important. The most important part of them is that they actually go to the children. We don't ask the children to go anywhere. We don't ask them to pay anything. We don't ask them to do anything but come in and have fun. And it's entirely up to them. We have 3 rules: respect yourself, respect the bus, and respect supplies. That's it, and it's all about respect. And we also would like for them to respect their abilities and respect their talents and respect their beauty and respect all the wonderful things that they are. But I think we can get there through the process that we take them through every single day when we see them. They come on board and they're in a whole different environment than any kind of other environment that they experience during their weeks. When they leave, they have done something that ought to make them feel good about themselves. I mean, it's good enough to make them feel good about themselves. We try to help them get to the point where they can. The most satisfying moment I've had since I started this project happened pretty early on in Potrero Hill. The kids were working on the bus. They'd do these wonderful projects, just terrific things, and they'd crumple them up or they'd throw them on the ground or they'd leave them on the floor of the bus, and it just seemed to me that this was utterly representative of how they felt about themselves, that their work wasn't worth taking home or something. So we really worked with them on that, and in a couple of months we had an art show, and all of a sudden we were trying to get the kids to leave their work so that we could frame it and put it in the art show, and no, they wanted to take it home. You know, their self-esteem had grown that much, that fast. It doesn't take an awful lot to teach a child that they really are a worthwhile individual who can do wonderful stuff. I think our greatest collective moment was the opening party for our first art show that was sponsored by and held at Zeum in San Francisco. It was just unbelievable. We had so many kids who came. We even had a couple of parents who came. That was a real big deal for us. And there were these children looking on the walls of this wonderful facility, and there were their paintings and their collages and some of their jewelry and a couple of their masks and these wonderful little dolls that they'd made and some puppets that they made for a puppet show. And I wish there had been more kids, but 20 kids to get actually out of their neighborhoods to an event is a lot of kids. We had to count that as a success. So there they were looking at their stuff up on the walls, and they knew that it was for sale. And whatever we sold a painting for, the child would get half of that, and then the other half would go to the art bus. Well, we sold a lot of paintings. We sold wonderful, great big geodesic domes. Everybody was crazy about it, and the kids entertained. Oh, and they were just wonderful. They sang and danced, and one girl, Sadie, played her recorder and did a wonderful job. So it was a huge deal for us. We sort of felt like we were finally legitimate, you know, because we had this wonderful art show. And then Wonder of Wonders, the lab, called us and said that, you know, they were interested as well in having an art show for us. And so we went to them and had another wonderful art show with the children performing and seeing their art on the walls, and with the extra added attraction for them was that they actually were able to work in the gallery on some of their pieces. The show at the lab was different because it had a theme. It was the mysterious underwater world. Part of the big, huge facility there was sort of off on one side. We hung these big black curtains, and you walked in, and it was an installation where it was completely underwater. There's a treasure chest on the floor with beautiful jewels coming out of it, a mermaid in the corner in a little boat with water swirling around her, all kinds of sea creatures and divers on the walls, and then hanging from the ceiling, all these monstrous denizens of the deep, a huge purple octopus and a very scary shark and a one-horned manta ray, and then lots of jellyfish that were made out of shoulder pads, incidentally. It was just wonderful. Oh, and a great big huge mural that the children had actually made at the labs. That was real special for them. It was really fun for them. They feel totally different after one of these shows.
My favorite part was when we did fishes, and we did like little stars with sponges.
I think this is important because we get to learn about art. We get to show like other kids to do drawings and stuff, and well, they'll learn how to do stuff that they don't think they'll do.
I think this is important because you're not just laying in your house in the bed or watching TV, being all bored, because this is fun.
I'm frequently asked whether the art bus makes a difference in kids' lives. I don't think that anybody's going to go to Harvard because of the art bus, and probably nobody's going to become Picasso because of the art bus. But when kids who used to throw their work away now take it home, when they think more about framing it than they do just leaving it on the bus or something like that, I think that's a big change. It might not be a sea change, which is kind of an overused expression anyway, but I think that's a huge change, and it shows that the children have learned to value themselves and value their work in a way that they hadn't before. Their work improves as well. They take more time with their work. They're more interested in it. They have more of their own ideas. Instead of being satisfied with the staff's project for that day, they might say, I'm not interested in doing that. I'd really rather do a collage, or I'd rather do a painting. So they've become comfortable enough with themselves and with us to be able to say, no, you know, I have a different vision that I'd like to follow. I think all those things are really, really important in their development. Again, it's not going to change everything in their lives, but those little tiny increments of self-esteem and self-confidence build toward a much more confident, more capable, more willing person, more willing to try things as an adult. The Imagine Bus Project has a bright future if I can figure out a way to pay for it. We've already got a program at San Francisco Juvenile Hall, 3 evenings a week, working with children there, funded through the Zellerbach Foundation, funded by the Zellerbach Foundation. I'd like to see a fleet of buses all over the country going into neighborhoods where kids just don't have an awful lot of options, giving them the option to learn about and experience and try out and play with arts and crafts. I think it's just an absolutely great thing for kids to do. I'd also like to see the Imagine Bus Project in much more rural areas. There's a program in Colombia which does very much what we do. They take an arts program out into very rural areas where kids know about chickens and trees and dirt, but not much else, and do arts and crafts projects with them there. And I've just been thinking a lot about how much I'd like to go to Colombia and see this program and the way it works, and think about going into rural areas myself. I can't think of anything else that would be more fun or make me feel better. I'm crazy about kids. I just really like them. I raised 3. I have 3 grandchildren. And as I say, I love arts and crafts. And I had this idea about these kids that I would be working with. And I was really wrong in a lot of ways about that idea, because I didn't know that they were so smart and so capable and so gorgeous. They're just wonderful, wonderful kids. And I think that everything that we can do to throw possibility and creativity and into the lives of children, that we all ought to do that. Every single person ought to do that, whether you're artistic or scientific or mathematically inclined, or you're an athlete or an artist of any kind, an actress, a writer, whatever. You know, you really, that's the job of an adult, is to enrich children's lives, I think. The Imagine Bus Project is a little program, but we take care of a lot of kids. And if anybody wanted to help us, we would be really grateful for that help. Supplies, money, time, whatever. It's guys like this that are really fun to work with. Okay, you can't put it on.
Get out. Hey! She gave me this, a lily, and a hula hoop. She made me these.
What'd you make?
I made a Halloween. I made a Halloween card.